Welcome to the Red Carpet Report, your backstage pass for celebrity book clubs, book adaptations, and new book releases. I'm Jackie.
And I'm Kirsten.
And we're your hosts.
Today's episode is a deep dive that we're doing with our friend Jules Buono of Friday Night Readers. We're going to be talking all about the Gilmore Girls and what celebrity book club picks they would be reading. But before we do that, we have the Red Carpet Rundown.
So there are a few exciting things that we've heard about this week. The first one is there's going to be an adaptation of Tomorrow, Tomorrow, and Tomorrow.
And Daisy Edgar Jones from Where the Crawdads Sing, our other favorite book adaptation, is scheduled to play the lead.
I'm actually really excited about this because I feel like the plot would lend itself very well to an adaptation. So another of a bit of a controversial with us author is Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover is going to be out on Friday.
Yeah, March 13th. It is coming. There's a great cast that's playing it. It's coming to theaters. I think this is one that I personally will wait until it is on a streaming platform to see, but I'm very curious what you guys are going to do. Are you going to go to the theater to see this one played out? What about you?
I think I'm also going to wait, but I'd also like to know what people thought about this book. And the last one that we have to talk about is something that you watched over the weekend.
That's right. We're following up with last week's episode where I talked about Vladimir, the adaptation that was coming out on Netflix. And I actually had the opportunity to watch, I think, the first 3 episodes over the weekend with my husband, who really liked it, which again, I had mentioned that it was a literary fiction book that was being adapted, and I wasn't sure that it was going to be for everyone. They did some really clever things. It is an internal monologue type of book, but they had the character, the main female character, breaking the fourth wall and talking to the audience and almost being an unreliable narrator of sorts.
Oh, I love that.
But it was really clever because how else are you going to get her internal monologue for setting up these scenes?
So smart.
It made it into a satire. It made it really funny. It is sexy. It is like these moments of like, wait, is that happening? And then you realize it's her imagining the scene and then what the scene is actually playing out afterwards.
It sounds really good. I actually want to watch this one.
It's a really great one for the summertime. It's very escapist. It like makes you squirm a little, like you're kind of like uncomfortable.
Okay.
If you get secondhand embarrassment easily, which I do, like sometimes you're just like, am I watching this? Like, what's going on? But it's really great. It's entertaining.
Okay. Love that.
We're going to get into our main segment, which is a deep dive of Gilmore Girls and celebrity book clubs and where they join forces. And we're doing that with Jules Buono of Friday Night Readers. So let's take a look. Hi, Jules.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to the podcast.
We're so excited that you're here.
You're here today to talk to us about Gilmore Girls and their celebrity book club picks. But can you tell us a little bit about Friday Night Readers?
Friday Night Readers is a book club that reads the books that were on Gilmore Girls. And I kind of got obsessed with this in the pandemic where I was looking for a show to watch that felt comforting. And, I was getting hyped up on books that weren't really doing it for me on Bookstagram. And I thought back to, it was almost fall, and I thought back to the Gilmore Girls. And then I remembered that there was a list floating around the internet of all the books that they supposedly had read. And I say that because that list is wrong, and I've since made my own list. So I kind of got into it at that time, and I didn't really think much of it. But when I mentioned it on social media, people went nuts over it. So it ended up becoming a thing. I made a separate Bookstagram account for it, and we did it several years. It used to be Rory Gilmore Book Club. Now it's Friday Night Readers because I wanted to be a little bit more open-ended than just Gilmore Girls. Like, we also love seasonal reading and stuff like that, which is Gilmore adjacent, but not exactly Gilmore Girls. And over the past few years now, I've also it took me almost 2 years to go episode by episode, pausing and looking at books that are in the background and trying to figure out what they are, which we'll get to some of those today. So I think what I've come up with now is the most comprehensive and accurate list of books that were on Gilmore Girls. It's 475. And our book club mostly functions on Substack. Those are long form posts, and we read on one monthly prompt. So this month we're doing books that were published after 2000, because I think that's really what's fun about Gilmore Girls is that you get the older classics, but then you get the things that were popular in the early aughts. And for someone, of my age, an elder millennial, those were the books that I missed because I was studying in school at that time. So I wasn't really reading for fun. And that really interested me about the list and the challenge as a whole. And it's really just grown since then. I still get so much joy out of reading these books. And there's just something about it for me about knowing what they're talking about on the show.
Do you have a favorite that you've read that was on the show?
One book popped into my mind. I don't know if I would say it's my favorite book that I read from the show, but it's hard not to pick Anna Karenina because I know I never would have read it but for the show because it's Rory Gilmore's favorite book and it's very intimidating. It's Russian literature. It's 800 pages. And I'm always to this day so glad that I read it. It's such a joyful reading experience and I got so much out of it. And I know that I never would have done it without this challenge. For our readers, as a whole, the number one pick by far is, well, there's two. Driving Miss Daisy. And I highly recommend the audiobook version because it's Angela Lansbury and James Earl Jones.
Oh, wow.
And it's such a sweet book that feels like, it gives you that warm hug feeling. And with their voices, it's just another level. And everyone I recommend that to and listens absolutely loves that book, which is technically a play. The other one is The Outsiders. Everyone loves The Outsiders.
Really?
My sixth grader is currently reading that, actually.
Nice.
Let's get into it. If Rory Gilmore was going to be reading Celebrity Book Club picks, what books do you think she would read?
So first of all, I think she would be a Jenna or maybe an Oprah too.
I think in modern day now it would be a Jenna for sure.
Yeah. And that's how I read. And I consider myself to be a Rory. So with Rory, I think of classics. I think of literary fiction. And then, the last thing I tried to incorporate into my picks for her were books, I say like a dash of bookwormness, a dash of like that books about books kind of thing and books about writers.
Which is funny because I have declared that 2026 is the year of books about books.
We're starting to see it. And you just reminded me of one I didn't put on my list, which I probably should have. Wasn't Library Book a Reese pick like several years ago?
Yes, it was. It was.
So there's a bonus pick.
Okay.
There we go. Okay.
And that was a good one. And I could see her wanting to know like the history of that fire. 'Cause
Absolutely.
There's still some, she's like probably out there trying to solve it.
For all of these, I went through Oprah, Jenna, Reese, Jimmy Fallon, and GMA. Those are my top 5. So for Rory, what's interesting about these is some of the books actually were on the show. So the ones for Rory that were on the show, Anna Karenina, which we've already talked about. The Sound and the Fury by William Faulkner, which was, she called it her bus book one day when she was like packing her book bag.
That's right.
And she's packing with all these books. And she said, oh, this is my bus book. Oh, I have a great one because I think I am the only person who has named this one. When I told you I went through myself and tried to make like the best possible list, I actually found The Secret History on her shelf.
Oh, no way.
I think it might be in a few episodes. And it's like literally just the spine. And that's the one book that not just me, but a lot of Gilmore Girls fans say like Rory would totally read The Secret History. It's dark academia in New England. And then you heard it here first that, I'm being an expert on the books on the show. I actually found it, and you probably won't find it on any other list.
So what are the newer ones?
So the newer ones, so there's a few that were really easy. Becoming by Michelle Obama. We know she worked on Barack Obama's campaign.
Yep.
Another fun one that I thought was The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. And the reason I thought of that one was a few reasons. Toni Morrison is not on the list, and I just can't imagine a world in which Rory Gilmore does not read Toni Morrison.
Yeah.
And the reason I picked this one in particular is because it was on 2 celebrity book club lists, the Oprah and the Jenna list.
That's right.
So I thought that one,
I think the only book that is on 2 lists.
So I think you guys will like this one, The Giver of Stars by Jojo Moyes.
Yeah, 100%.
I love that one. And it's all about librarians, so I could see her loving that.
It's about librarians. I forget the time period, maybe like mid 1800s, was it?
But it was the
librarians.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That traveled. That was a great book.
Yeah.
And
love that
then
one.
another one that I think has been more popular recently that I'm so glad people are getting into now, because I personally loved it when it came out, is called Writers and Lovers by Lily King. Did you guys read that one?
So it's funny, I did not read that one, but Heart the Lover, which is sort of a sequel, but not really. It's kind of a bookend on either side. I thought was one of my favorite books of last year. It was phenomenal. And now I have to go back and read Writers and Lovers.
I read it.
Writers and Lovers. Did you like it?
Nope.
Oh.
I don't.
It's hit or miss. It's hit or miss with people.
I know that it was supposed to be emotional. It was incredibly well written, but it didn't hit me emotionally. I didn't have an emotional reaction to it. And I was just like, eh.
I think what I liked about it, so it's about a writer kind of like starting her career. And that's really what I loved about it, was more of like how hard it is to start your career as a young person, and especially in the arts. I definitely think we see Rory struggling in her career. Like, I kind of wonder where she is right now. Like, is she working in Stars Hollow? And even when she was doing like her New Yorker piece in A Year in the Life, like it really was just that one piece. We didn't really see the Christian Amanpour career that she originally aspired to. So I think she may feel aligned with that protagonist as well.
Yeah, I could see that. There's a lot of similarities there.
Before we move on, there's one I almost forgot, which is absolutely perfect for Rory, and it is Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver,
which won the Pulitzer.
And it is a retelling of David Copperfield in modern Appalachia.
It's a powerful book. It's sad. It's incredibly sad. I feel like my heart was breaking for these characters the entire book.
I agree. You really do get the emotions because it's about poverty. It's about addiction. Charles Dickens, I don't think he's the number one author reference. I think that's William Shakespeare, but I think he's the number 2 referenced author on the show.
So talk to us about Lorelai, because I feel like she's not really reading those classics.
No, she's not. Lorelai is our pop culture goddess. I also think, beyond pop culture, I think, there is a lot of books that are on celebrity book club lists that are what I would say are whip smart, especially like GMA. We see that, like the really provocative narratives. So I think of her reading that type of stuff as well, where it's like just as sharp as she is. Of course, we know that she read Wild because she went on the Wild by Cheryl Strayed adventure on A Year in the Life. And that was originally an Oprah pick. It does have some Reese in it as well, though, because Reese starred in the movie.
That's right, she did.
So it's also
and she's
Reese-coded.
chosen that author for something else, a different one of her books.
Yeah, Tiny Beautiful Things, which was also great. So another one I want to ask you guys about, it's really old. It's 1990s. I read it. It was actually required reading in high school for me, which is odd because it's not often that required reading is contemporary. And this book came out at the time we read it. It's Where the Heart Is by Billy Letts.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. I love the movie with Natalie Portman.
Yeah.
I did not read it in school, but I did read it on my own. Probably a little bit too young to have been reading it on my own.
Same.
It was like my
agree with
mom
that.
let me read anything that had like Oprah's stamp of approval on it, like not realizing that I was reading like Wally Lamb and I shouldn't have been
which
reading
all
Wally
of
Lamb.
those are.
But this one was tender and sweet and totally appropriate, I think, mostly for my teenage self.
In a way, it's Lorelai's story.
Right. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, it's like a pregnant teen who she ends up like living in Walmart. And then she has the baby, and it's a found family story. It's very Lorelai.
It is, and it's all about her community that constantly supports her.
Yeah.
And it is really like you could almost see like Gilmore Girls being inspired by this movie. I mean, by this book.
Yeah.
On the show, Lorelai refers to "And Then There Were None" by Agatha Christie. So, and I know you guys love the Christie affair.
Yep.
Yes.
Which is about Agatha Christie going missing.
Yep. And that was our book club pick last month.
Yes. So I thought that would be a fun one for Lorelai.
100%. And the book does have references to "And Then There Were None" or "Murder on the Orient Express." So that's actually a perfect pick.
Yeah, she would get a kick out of that, I think.
And Lorelai is super smart. Like although she wouldn't read the classics, she would totally read Agatha Christie.
Yes,
Like
definitely.
it's the number one mystery writer of all time.
Well, she was a private school girly, you know, and people forget that because she is like this bouncing, bubbly single mom who's like doing her own thing. But she had the same education that, minus the college, right? But she had the same education that that Rory had. So she's definitely capable of reading these like heavier texts.
But I think it's a matter of she doesn't want to, not that she's not able to.
Right.
Very true.
People underestimate how whip smart she is.
I think the fact that Agatha Christie mysteriously disappeared for several days would really intrigue her. Another one I picked that I just had to pick was The Family by Naomi Krupitsky, which is basically a mafia story.
It's a great one.
The number one book that Lorelai refers to on Gilmore Girls is The Godfather. So, a mafia book, I had to include that.
Yeah, it makes sense for her personality 100%. And then she would probably like go to dinner with Richard and start like talking in mob speak, and he'd be so confused, like you could just see her making a bit out of it.
Always.
I kind of thought The Husbands by Holly Gramazio.
You read that one.
It's so funny because most people that read that book do not like it. And I read it and I thought it was so incredibly smart and clever and wonderful. I think she would think it was awesome.
I think from everything you've told me, that is her sense of humor.
It is because they, like in the ways it's about the husbands that keep coming down from the attic. And every time the husband goes up into the attic, a new husband appears. It's like a time warp. And the husbands keep going up and coming back down. And she'll get like annoyed at like, the way they brush their teeth or something bigger. And then she'll be like, oh, could you get something from the attic? And it's just so funny. Like the idea that you would just like quick replace. It's fine.
That's funny.
It feels very Lorelai.
It does.
Like it feels like something that could be in like a dream montage of Lorelai. Where it's like Christopher coming down and then Luke.
Yes, Kirk walks down the ladder and she's like, immediate send back.
So the last one I picked for Lorelai, because she's really into movies, I think she'd be really into summer blockbuster hits. And Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid, which was a GMA pick, is all about traveling to outer space.
Yeah, which is also having a moment.
Yeah,
some space books.
She would go, like she'd watch like Apollo 13 or Armageddon. Maybe she'd go to the movie theater and watch one of those old movies after she read it.
Yeah, I could see that. And Rory would be sitting there reading like Hidden Figures instead.
Okay, so we have the third Gilmore girl, who is Emily Gilmore. So what do you think she'd be reading?
Emily is my absolute favorite character, first of all. I love her so much. So when we see her read on the show, it's usually for her book club. So I think the way we would see Emily reading is the most popular book club books of today. And I think there's a few that especially are popular with women of a certain age. They're popular with everyone, but especially like women of a certain age tend to gravitate. Like Tom Lake is about a woman talking about her past to her adult daughters. That really resonates with someone like
But
Emily.
she would be scandalized because it's like about the theater.
Yes.
Right? Like she'd be scandalized reading that one.
There's also a twist in that might scandalize her.
That's true too. That is
We
also
want to say
true.
what it is. And then, two other really popular books with book clubs and with women, The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. Of course, what book club didn't read The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna?
Yep.
And Broken Country, which I know was one of your favorite books last year by Claire Leslie Hall. I feel like that was the book club book of the year last year.
I think it was.
And for good reason.
But I think that Emily would read it and like very much be like, well, the mother was right the whole time. And she tries to think about the characters and what happens with the plot. She would definitely align herself with the villain of that book.
Yeah. And because I was going to say the mother's tough in that book.
And make some choices for her son's future that are maybe not actually in his best interest, but she thinks they are. And there's a lot of parallels with Lorelai in that one.
Yeah.
So I also thought, Emily is coming into her own as of 2016, a year in the life. She's living in Nantucket. I thought she would be more open to reading about class at this point. So I actually thought it would be really fun for Emily to read The Maid by Nita Prose. We see her befriending her maid in A Year in the Life. And I think she might actually like the main character in that book, who is a quirky maid in a hotel who's on a kind of like a murder mystery.
Yeah, I think she would be trying so hard and would not understand Molly.
Like fully what was going on in Molly's head.
She would not understand. She'd be so confused. She'd be trying to be friends with her and do the right thing, and she just wouldn't get it. I think like reading this, she probably wouldn't even understand the character of Molly.
Do you think she'd finish it?
Yeah, and I think she would like it, but I think she wouldn't understand Molly's quirks.
Yeah.
So I also thought another good one about class and about women and families dealing with class is Pineapple Street by Jenny Jackson.
Which I don't think got enough recognition. I think that is one of the best books the year that it came out.
Agree.
And I feel like I could see her like discussing that book with like the DAR women and being like, oh my gosh, and this thing happened. And don't you remember when like Susie Q had the same thing happen to her with her family? Like, I think she would use it as the jumping off point to gossip 100%.
That's exactly what it would be. It would be with the DAR women because it's all about a woman, and I believe she had 2 daughters and then a daughter-in-law who was kind of like the outsider trying to like fit into this wealthy family. And every one of them has different things going on that's all related to money. So it's a really smart book. And I think that Emily would be in a place where she could read this and then, like you said, talk about it with the DAR women.
And I would like to be a fly on the wall of that DAR book club meeting.
I would like to be a fly on the wall for any one of our book club meetings.
Let's have some fun with Lane and Paris. Can you give us like 2 or 3 picks for each of them?
Yeah. So with Lane, I mean, it's really obvious that, she loves music. So anything music driven. And then I also really like Asian American books for Lane. I think there's so many themes that she would relate to in them. And I think it would also just be nice for her to have characters, no matter the genre, like whether it's about race or not, just the characters that look like her. She is one of the only diverse characters, her family, on the show. So I think it would be nice for her to have these stories in her life that represent her. So, of course, music books, we see Daisy Jones and the Six. And then a book that you guys referred to me and that I have on my holds list, so maybe you guys can talk about it, Wait for Me by Amy Jo Burns.
I love this book so much. It's about Nashville songwriters at different time periods with a loose connection to each other, each trying to make it in a male-dominated industry, which I think that really relates to Lane, especially. The second protagonist, it's in the early 90s, and some of the things that you see happening with her still happen when like Lane is out there starting her band. So I think she would absolutely love this one, especially because there's a musical live music component to the audiobooks.
Which is the second book that we've actually read this year that did that.
That has the music playing, I know, with full accompaniment.
Yeah.
So aside from music, what else are you choosing for Lane?
So there are several Asian American books on the various lists. The one that really stood out to me, well, 2 of them that stood out to me, Little Fires Everywhere, which is about class and race in a white neighborhood, a white suburban neighborhood. And then another one that it's a little bit offbeat. Like I kind of had to stretch to think of this for Lane, but I do think it works. I think Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, which is really about friendship and video games. But I think Lane, being a musician, is very much about play, and video games are very much about play. And we also have Sam, who is an Asian American character in that.
But it's also the creativity and the creativity of making video games is very similar to the creativity of making music. So I think it's the artistry and being a female in a male dominated world. And in this case, an art world.
And the stigma too of like, when you're an artist, when you're trying to do a video game or you're trying to do music, you're struggling and a lot of people don't find you. You're like, oh, what is this little hobby of yours, until you become uber successful and then people are accepting of you. But when you're just trying out any of these fields, people are like, why don't you get a real job? Why don't you do something else? And so I think she'd resonate with that.
That's very true. And we do see that on the show. And I think both the book and the show the business side of creativity, which is hard.
All right. What do you think about for Paris?
So we know she reads classics because she refers to them a lot. And, we know she went to Chilton. We know she went to Yale. We know her and Rory were in a lot of classes together. When I looked at these lists, basically anytime a really intense plot was on the page, I was like, that is Paris, because Paris is so intense. So, two classics that I picked for Paris were actually books that were read on the first day of Chilton for Rory, which, by the way, I do have my Chilton sweatshirt on.
I love that.
It was Great Expectations by Charles Dickens and A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. These were both Oprah picks. So we know that Paris would have read them, but Rory wouldn't, which is very symbolic of that season of the show.
I think Rory would have gone back and read them like later on at some point.
One that immediately sprang to my mind was Best Offer Wins by Marisa Cuscino. That's a recent one that's been really popular, and it's basically about a modern woman who will stop at absolutely nothing to buy a house.
And she's like a little bit of a psycho character. Like you see her internal monologue is as intense as Paris's internal monologue for sure. And now we're going to get into some of the bigger characters and more minor characters and what we think they would read. So let's do a speed round of our favorites. And let's start with Luke.
Luke was easy because on Oprah's book club list, there's The Road by Cormac McCarthy. And Luke actually read several Cormac McCarthy books on the show. They are in when he breaks up with, I hope this isn't a spoiler for anyone, when he breaks up with Lorelai, she's packing boxes of all of his belongings. And there are several Cormac McCarthy books in there.
What about Dean?
He would read whatever Rory told him to read, which is Pride and Prejudice, which he does read because she told him to read it. And that was a recent Read with Jenna pick.
How about Jess?
Jess, also easy because one of the books he is known for reading on the show, which I know is one of your all-time favorite books, 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, which was an Oprah book.
I think he's an Oprah all the way.
Yeah, he's definitely an Oprah. Definitely.
I think there's a bunch of characters that are full Oprah.
Yeah. How about Logan?
Logan was tough. I struggled with Logan, and what I came down to was, he's in the news business, and I thought Chain Gang All-Stars sort of had that. It's dystopian. It's about the prison system. It's about gladiators who are fighting for their freedom, which feels very culturally relevant and newsworthy.
It's also one that I recommend to men that are looking for book clubs because it's a little bit more gory. So it's not one that I would typically always, advise, like always mention. There is a high level of gore and killing in it, but it is really entertaining. And I could definitely see him reading that one. And lastly, Suki. I actually feel like this is pretty easy.
It's so easy. There really was only one food book on all of the lists, and it's an excellent, excellent book. It's From Scratch by Tembi Locke. It's a memoir about her marriage to a Italian cook. And then this isn't a spoiler. He passes away, and it's about her coping with grief through food and through Italy, family, all those types of things.
I read this book, and I read her follow-up memoir, and I 100% agree. Suki would love this book.
And she'd be cooking Italian for like a week straight while reading it.
I have a few here. Okay. Richard.
Richard was the toughest one, I think, because he reads a lot of biographies, a lot of very historically significant books. The one I came down to for him was The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead.
Yes.
We don't see Richard reading this, obviously is a slavery book. We don't see him reading a lot of books about race, but it won several awards, which I think he would like. And it is also still historical.
100%. It's a brilliantly written book. And the way that it's done, it's a little bit magical realism. So for anyone who hasn't read it, they envision the Underground Railroad as an actual railroad that takes you to different places and different times almost. And I think that he would love it. Okay, we have Miss Patty.
The Turnout by Megan Abbott, because it is a ballet book.
Right.
Yeah, perfect. Literally perfect.
What about Babette?
Okay. When we think about Babette, we think about gossip. And so we have to look at the Celebrity Book Club list and say, what is the most gossiped about book of the past several years? And for many reasons, I landed on Where the Crawdads Sing.
Right, which was really the one that put Reese's book club on the map because it was such a bestseller for so long. And then there was the adaptation, and it really gave validity to her book club.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and it's one that everyone has read. If
Yeah.
you ask anyone in the past century, I feel like before that it was The Nightingale, and then it was Where the Crawdads
Yeah.
Sing. So
Yeah.
Agree.
makes sense.
And there's also some controversy surrounding this book. So I think Babette would love to talk about the author's controversy.
Yes. I could see her doing like a deep dive and trying to really uncover whether or not she was guilty of what she's been accused of.
So what about Kirk?
I found the best book for Kirk, The Midnight Library by Matt Haig, which is all about living all of these different lives. It's a magical realism book, and Kirk's whole existence is living all of these different lives.
100%. This is so perfect
It
for
is,
him.
it is.
What about Taylor?
You know, he's all about neighborhood and community, and he's very active in politics. And there is a book, it's called The Great Divide, and it's all about building the Panama Canal. So I thought that one was a pretty good match for Taylor.
I could see that too, because it also is about how the building of that canal impacted the community at large. So I could see that for him. He would be like, I want to be the mayor that goes in and fixes this problem.
We're going to finish off with our big question. If all of the main characters of the Gilmore Girls were together for a book club, what book would it be?
I feel 100% confident about this. It is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis.
Yes.
That is such
That's
a good
another one
pick.
that is like the book club
Mhm.
pick. And they would all have very different reactions to it.
Lessons in Chemistry is about a woman who becomes a single mom. And this takes place in 1960, which I think some of the characters would have even liked. You know, Babette and Taylor would like the vintage era. But she's a single mom, like Lorelai, to a young girl. And she has to really start over her life at this time. And she was also very smart and a scientist. So I think Paris would relate to that. And then she ends up starting her own cooking show, which Suki would relate to.
And so would Luke, for that matter.
Yes, because when I thought about it, I was thinking, you know, if they had a book club, it would obviously take place at Luke's diner. Like I almost envisioned in my head this episode that is like the Bracebridge dinner where like everyone comes together and everyone has some little piece of the book club.
And I could see at least one character coming in and referencing the adaptation, that like stuff that happened in the adaptation that didn't happen in the book, and everyone yelling at them like, no, that's not from the book.
I think that would be Babette and Miss
I love
Patty
that.
who would do that.
And Kirk would have like maybe read the chemistry book or something instead. Like he just would have like not paid attention and like read something else. It would be really funny. I would
And
like
you
to see
also
an
have,
episode of them.
There's a dog in that book who is a big character, and Paul Anka
Yeah,
is a big
that's right.
character.
That's
like when you really
right.
think about this, there are just so many levels. And then I feel like Suki would be making these, you know, foods that have like chemical reactions where it's like dry ice and stuff.
I want to go to that book club
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
with all of them.
That would be amazing. And then like Emily crashes in to the book club because she read it too with her book club. And then she's like dealing with all the residents of Stars Hollow.
I know, except for that
Their
I feel like
craziness.
Emily would have very different opinions about like
Mm-hmm.
a woman wanting to work and that would be a great discussion.
It would be such a good episode. Like
I
bring
agree.
that back for the Year in the Life round 2. Let's get a book club episode.
You should tell them, Jules.
I should tell them.
Just call up Amy Palladino and be like, here's the deal. We need you to come back one more
Listen,
time. for this."
ASP, I got it for you.
Well, thank you for coming today, Jules.
Thank you. This was so fun.
This was so
great.
much fun.
I'm so glad that Jules was able to join us as our first ever guest. Hopefully, you guys will have a chance to go and check out Friday Night Readers on Substack. But now it's time for the bookmark, and it's Jackie's pick this week.
My bookmark this week is a book that's coming out on March 31st, and I'm super excited. It is The Book Witch by Meg Shaffer, and I've loved all of her books, and this one just made me feel so good. It is about Rainy March, and she is a book witch. So she is able to go into books and repair them when book burners try and destroy books. So she has to go in to her favorite detective novel to fix the story, and she ends up falling in love with the main character and brings him into the real world for a little while, which she's not really supposed to do. And the next thing you know, there's an adventure of the two of them. There's a little bit of a mystery, and it is an absolute love for books written into this book. It mentions classics. It mentions we have Elizabeth Bennet in here. We have like some Jane Eyre. There's Alice in Wonderland. I mean, every book that you love is in this. It's really an ode to books, and it's a little bit love story, a little bit fantasy, a little bit mystery, and you have everything in this book.
And you said this is the year of book about books. So, this seems to be right on trend with what you're thinking for the year.
Yes, 100%. And it was every bit as delicious as I hoped it would be.
Next week's episode is going to be a plot twist where we're going to talk about all about the April Reading Challenge prompt, books about grief. We have a special author coming on to chat with us, but we would like to know what your favorite grief romance books are. Or I guess grief books in general, but that one in particular is a little subgenre that we're going to dive into next week. Other than that, like, follow, and subscribe.
And happy reading.